My beloved child, there are pains I do not permit to come in order to finish you, but to awaken you. Yet if you continue to live in silence, clinging to memories like a wound that refuses to heal, you will lose something more precious than anything else, a holy inheritance entrusted to you in tears and in parting. When you refuse to let my light shine into the hidden corners of your soul, you are living as one, abandoned, while the truth is that you are chosen, guarded, and entrusted with a sacred responsibility. For if you will not open your heart to recognize what I am placing into your hands, then what you call an ending will become the grave that buries alive the very destiny I have written for your life. I have knocked at the door of your heart with tears, with losses, and even with the quiet spaces you thought were meaningless. But if you keep rushing past them, my word will become only an echo, lost inside a mind that has grown cold. For to those who have, more will be given, and they will have in abundance. But from those who have nothing, even what they have will be taken away. Mount 1312. I do not grow weary, but your time is not without limit, and each time you remain indifferent, you push yourself further away from the path that was meant to lead you into new life. I see clearly every night you wrestle in silence, every time you burst into tears when no one else knows. Yet, my child, pain does not come to destroy you. It is the bell I use to rouse your soul from numbness, from a way of living that only exists but does not truly live according to the nature in which you were created. You think you have lost everything, but the truth is that I am using your very loss to open a new journey, one that only those who have fallen to the deepest depths can have the heart to continue. If you keep turning away and reject this opportunity, you will be left with a life that circles endlessly around nostalgia and regret, a life with no purpose, no progress, and no peace. I have not allowed you to pass through this season of loss empty-handed. There was someone who loved you to their last breath, who prayed, sacrificed, and wept in your place. That love has not disappeared. It has become an inheritance I have entrusted to you. If you keep your heart closed and refuse to embrace this responsibility, you are not only rejecting yourself, but also abandoning the prayers and hopes of those who loved you. You think I only want you to get through this, but I want much more. I want you to live in a way worthy of the legacy woven from tears, faith, and fidelity. If you keep standing in the ashes and lamenting the past, the grace I pour out will not take root, and you will go on living in the desert of a parched soul. Do you know this? I have never stopped whispering to your soul through every event, through each anxiety, through every unformed dream. But the most frightening thing is not that you do not hear, it is that you do hear. Yet you do not listen with your heart. You have begun to treat my word like background music, something that simply fills the silence. You listen to feel less lonely, then go on living as if I had never been there at all. You do not realize that in that very moment, the hour of awakening I had prepared for so long is arriving. If you let it slip by, you will slide back into your former way of life, where no one really understands what you are hurting over, where you live without knowing why you exist. When you hear me and do not respond, your soul slowly loses its sensitivity, and there comes a time when, even if I call, you no longer recognize my voice. You are standing on a fragile threshold, where indifference can become the judgment by which you lose your sacred calling. When my word becomes mere background noise, you are numbing your own ability to hear the voice that comes from heaven. I did not call you at random. It was a moment I chose because I knew your heart had grown soft enough, broken enough to receive truth. And if you ignore it, you will drift back into a life without direction, not knowing why you hurt or why you live. Every silent tear, every cry you stifle inside, I see all of it. I never overlook such things, But if you continue to treat everything as meaningless, you are the one dishonoring your own pain and refusing the hand I long to extend to raise you up. You are holding the key in your hand, yet if you do not use it, the door will not open by itself, and you will go on living in a suffocating sense of dead end that you mistake for fate, when in reality it is a delay you yourself have chosen. My beloved child, there are moments when I do not ask you to act hastily, but only to stop for a while long enough to realize that I am still here. I do not come to you in thunder, nor do I shout over the storms in your heart. I come as a gentle whisper in the hour when you quietly shed your tears. Yet I know that in this age, you are easily pulled into countless other sounds, information, images, emotions, even things that seem like rest, but in truth, only distract your soul. You are not guilty for being weak, but I want you to realize this: if you let my voice pass by like an uninteresting advertisement, you will lose the most sacred moment a soul can receive, the hour of being called awake. Do you know that the moment I speak to you is never random? It is a time carefully chosen from among millions of human footsteps. I have waited until your heart is soft enough, until your eyes are tired enough from searching, and until your soul is thirsty enough for truth. Then I come in, not by pounding on the door, but by waiting for you to open even a small crack. But if you are too busy, if you care only about your passing moods and rush past my word as you would scroll past a boring video, then that hour of awakening will slip away, not because I withdraw, but because you are not still enough to recognize it, and you will fall back into your old ways, living without knowing why you exist, hurting without understanding where the wound comes from. Long ago, when Samuel was still a child, he lived in the temple under the care of the priest Eli. One night I called, "Samuel, Samuel." He thought it was a human voice and ran to Eli. 3 times this happened, and only on the 4th did Eli understand and teach him to say, "Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening." Do you see, even in the temple, the holiest place, one can confuse my voice with human voices. If you are living in a world filled with noise and distraction, then you must be all the more careful. I do not blame you, but I am concerned for you, because if you do not learn to recognize my voice, you will not know which voice belongs to life and which voice comes from the depths of confusion and lostness. You do not need to understand everything I say right away. I am not asking you for a perfect faith, only for a small readiness, a willingness to stop, to pay attention, to believe that here and now I am speaking the very word you need. The tears you think are lonely, the questions no one answers, I see them all. And I do not speak to burden your heart, but to let you know there is one who is listening, who is knocking at your door, who is waiting for you to look up. If you continue to treat my word as something merely familiar, you will blur the sound of truth, and all that remains will be the hollow echo of your own inner world. I know there are times you are weary, and your mind is too tangled to discern what is true. And precisely for that reason, this hour of awakening is more precious than ever. Do not wait until your heart has hardened. Do not delay until pain has dulled the hearing of your soul. My call always comes before the night can swallow your spirit entirely. I always speak before darkness becomes your default state. If you hesitate, there may come a time when you no longer recognize my voice, not because I am absent, but because your soul has grown numb. My beloved, if today you hear my voice, do not harden your heart. You do not have to be good enough before you are allowed to listen. I do not come to make demands, but to heal. I do not speak in order to impose, but to awaken something that has long been asleep within you, life itself. You do not need to understand everything. You only need, when you hear, to listen with your whole heart, as if this were your last chance, as if a door were opening before you, because, in truth, today may be the very moment when that door opens at exactly the right time. Do not let my word become one option among many. You know well that my voice is unlike anything else. It does not try to be loud, does not fight for attention. It is humble and gentle. And for that very reason, it is easy to overlook. Yet that is exactly why it carries a healing power no other voice can give. If you learn to cherish every word I speak, every small sign I send, you will begin to see a new current rising within your life, a quiet yet powerful flow that guides you back onto the right path. I did not begin knocking at your heart only today, but today I knock more firmly, not because I have lost patience, but because the hour of awakening has come. What you are going through is no accident. Your anxieties, your losses, even your present confusion are the opening lines of a conversation I long to have with you. If you step into it, you will no longer be alone, but if you go on hearing and letting it drift away, reading and forgetting, being moved and then switching off, what you lose is not just a sermon, but the chance to live truly, to live rightly, to live fully. And you know, when a soul loses its sensitivity to the voice of God, the frightening thing is not that you suddenly become worse, but that you go on living as before, doing all sorts of things, still having religious feelings, while your soul quietly withers away. I do not want that for you. I earnestly desire that you begin again with just one small step, truly listening. Listen as if for the first time, as if there were no next time. I do not need you to grasp every symbol or fathom every deep mystery. I only ask that you believe this. I am speaking truth, and my word is unlike any other word, for it carries life, forgiveness, and a way out of the darkness in which you are struggling. When you allow my voice to awaken your heart, every locked door will begin to open, not by your strength, but by the grace that is set in motion through your listening. Then you will see that my word is not given merely to move your emotions, but to stir again the holy lifeblood within you, so that you may stand firm enough to receive what is coming, what I have reserved for those who are willing to rise from out of their own pain. For it is precisely in the darkness of this invitation that you will touch the truest light, not a momentary flash, but a light that will guide the next chapters of your life. There is a very deep place in your heart that you always avoid touching, not because it is too far, but because it hurts too much. There you have bound yourself under a silent sentence. It is all my fault. I see you taking on a burden of responsibility that is not yours, as if you wanted to use your torment to redeem what has been lost. You think that as long as you keep regretting and blaming yourself, the memory will remain, and that person will not be entirely gone. But my child, guilt does not keep anyone with you. It only keeps you trapped. And when you live forever in the feeling that I am the cause, your soul is slowly strangled in a misplaced self-sacrifice that does not bring life, only exhaustion. I do not deny your pain. I also do not make light of the if-onlys. You whisper in the night, if only you had called sooner. If only you had cared more. If only you had been a little different. I know each of those things well. But my child, you are using your memory to rewrite a script over which you were never given control. The timing of each person's life lies within my design, not within your fragile illusion of omnipotence. When you cling to the thought, if I had done better, everything would have been different, you are, without realizing it, placing yourself in a position that only I can occupy, the place of sovereignty over life and death. And in that very moment, your self-torment disguises itself as virtue. Yet at its root, there is a painful pride. You believe that everything revolves around your own ability, instead of resting wholly in my hands. I remember a woman long ago, caught in sin and dragged into the midst of a crowd. Everyone was ready to throw stones, while she kept her face bowed in shame. When I said, Let the one among you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone." One by one the stones fell to the ground, and the people slipped away in silence. Then I said to her, "Neither do I condemn you. Go now, and sin no more." Do you see, I did not deny her sin, but I did not allow sin to define her identity for the rest of her life. Yet today you are using an invisible stone to hurl at your own heart without ceasing. You have become judge, defendant, and executioner all at once. I stand before you not to condemn you, but to set you free, yet you keep locking the door from the inside. When you live too long with the feeling, "I am not worthy," you begin quietly refusing joy. You hesitate to smile, to receive blessing, to believe that anything good could still be meant for you. You fear the happiness of others, because in your heart their joy sounds like a silent accusation. How can you still be allowed to be glad? And so you push yourself out of the very place of healing I am opening for you. You think you are being humble, but in truth you are nurturing a form of self-punishment that stretches from year to year. You have stayed in that invisible prison so long that you have mistaken it for your home. I come and knock on the door each day, but you do not dare to open, because you think you are unworthy of freedom. My beloved child, I do not need you to forget, but I do need you not to let memory imprison you. I do not ask you to deny your pain, yet I long for you not to enthrone that pain as master of your life. The one who has gone ahead of you does not want you to live like a ghost of the past. And I, the giver of life, did not create you to exist wrapped in shame. If you cling to words of accusation against yourself, my hand cannot take yours to lift you up, not because I am weak, but because your fists are clenched around the shackles that bind you. I have not come to break you apart, I have come to break your chains. And then there will come a very quiet moment, when you are so tired that you no longer have the strength to accuse yourself. It is precisely then that I will whisper to you, not with thunder, but with a gentle truth. You no longer live for yourself alone. What you carry is not only memory, it is something far greater, an inheritance woven from the prayers, sacrifices, and tears of the one who is gone. When you cease your self-torment, you will finally begin to see what you have been given, and when you realize that you are an heir, you will no longer live as someone forgotten, out of the place you thought was the abyss of your guilt. I am quietly preparing you to rise into a new identity, no longer that of one who condemns themselves, but of one who has been entrusted with a calling. My child, there is a truth that many people never recognize, and because they do not see it, they spend their whole lives in a poverty they mistake for fate. I did not create you to be a nameless soul drifting through this world. On the contrary, I have appointed for you a share of sacred inheritance, not as a prize for the capable, but as something entrusted to the beloved. Within you is not only breath, but an entire line of invisible legacy, woven from prayers, tears, and hidden sacrifices of those who loved you and are no longer here. Yet I see you living as though you had nothing left, as though everything were lost, while in truth you are standing in the midst of a treasure that has already been placed into your hands. You once thought that person had simply gone away, but there are some who, when they depart, leave you more than their presence. They leave you a heritage. Perhaps it was a mother who prayed for you every night, a father who quietly entrusted you with his final words of wisdom, a loved one who once offered you up to me in tears. Those whispered prayers do not vanish into nothingness. They become a mantle of honor draped across your shoulders. Yet I see you setting it aside. You feel ashamed, exhausted, convinced that you are unworthy and not strong enough. And so you live as someone who has not been chosen. You live as though you were abandoned, as if no one had ever spoken your name before me. That is not the truth. It is only a blur brought on by the darkness that comes when you let sorrow cover the eyes of your soul. Long ago, Elisha, the one who succeeded the prophet Elijah, received Elijah's cloak when his master was taken up to heaven. He did not receive only a position, he received a flowing stream of grace that had been passed on. When Elisha took that mantle and struck the water, the Jordan River parted, proving that the gift did not die with the one who carried it, but continued in the one who dared to receive it. And you, my child, what about you? I have placed in your hands a portion of spiritual inheritance, but if you do not become aware of it, do not touch it. Do not open your heart to receive it. That mantle cannot truly operate. It will feel like a burden, not because it is heavy, but because you refuse to carry it as something that rightfully belongs to you. I have watched you be preserved in ways you did not expect, rescued from what seemed irretrievably lost, granted a peace without explanation in the darkest nights. You called it luck, yet you did not know that it was the continuing history of intercession at work. That person, though now with me, has left behind a spiritual current that has not run dry. And you are the heir. You are not merely a survivor, you are the one entrusted. But if you refuse to acknowledge this, if you keep living as someone who has lost everything, then you are quietly burying your most precious treasure in the ground, like the servant who hid his talent for fear of being blamed. I do not want you to live like a beggar, not because you are lacking, but because everything you need has long since been entrusted to you. You ask me for peace without realizing that peace is already waiting for you to receive it. You seek meaning, while meaning has been woven into your very name. I see your thirst for love, yet that love has never abandoned you. It has only been hidden beneath the doubts you feed each day. It is time for you to rise and take hold of what is yours, not to prove anything, but to step into what has belonged to you for so long. When you begin to live as an heir, your eyes will be opened, and you will understand that I have never left you alone, never allowed your calling to die, never let love become meaningless. My dear child, receiving an inheritance does not mean you must understand everything at once. It simply asks of you a humble heart that can bow and say, Father, if this inheritance truly belongs to me, please give me the courage to carry it. For if you do not step into it, you will live in the midst of treasure like someone without a home, begging scraps of hope from others while I have already prepared a banquet for you, right in the place you once thought was a desert. The greatest loss does not come from others taking something away from you, but from you failing to recognize what you already have. And as you begin to see this, you will be ready to enter what comes next, no longer mere survival, but responsibility restored, calling affirmed, and a heart set in its right place, ready not only to receive but also to give. My beloved, when you start to realize that you are no longer the one who has lost everything but the one who has been entrusted with much, you will also begin to face a very real fear, the fear of not being enough. You look at what I have placed in your hands, and it seems far too great for your strength. In that moment you do not deny me, but you do deny yourself, whispering, I am so weak, I am unworthy, I cannot do this. I hear every word. But my child, my calling has never been built upon your strength, it rests upon my grace. If you keep waiting until you are strong enough, holy enough, steady enough before you dare to move, you will wait until the end of your days, and the season watered with tears will turn into a season of barren waste. I see how often you look to others, comparing your path with theirs, your pace with their success, until you shrink back inside yourself. You think they are more gifted, more radiant, more worthy. Yet you do not realize that I did not create you to be a copy of anyone else. I have written a story uniquely for you, a story that began in love. has been forged in tears and will be completed in faithfulness. When you compare yourself, you are not only belittling your own heart, you are also questioning my wisdom. I who chose you and not another for this place. Long ago, Moses trembled as you do now. When I called him to lead my people out of Egypt, he replied, I am slow of speech. I am not worthy. I did not deny his weakness. But I answered, who gave human beings their mouths? Is it not I? I did not demand perfection of him. I asked for obedience. And from a trembling man a nation was set free. Do you see, I do not pass over the weak. I simply cannot use those who insist on hiding in their fear. Had Moses remained in his sense of not enough, Israel would never have seen the light of freedom. The same is true for you. I am not asking you to accomplish something grand all at once. I am only asking that you do not withdraw before you have even tried to step out. You think you are being humble when you speak of yourself as inadequate. But sometimes that is simply the way you avoid a sacred responsibility. I do not blame you for being afraid. I am only sorrowful that you allow fear to lead the way instead of letting me take your hand and walk with you. You do not need to see the whole road. You need only take a single small step, the step you have postponed for far too long. There are small acts I have placed on your heart many times, a phone call to ask after someone, an unfinished apology, a forgiveness you keep withholding, a good deed you know you should do but keep delaying. You keep thinking, when I am stronger, I will do it. But my child, it is precisely those small acts that are the first trickle of your calling. If you despise what is small, you are blocking what is great. Grace does not pour in a flood through a soul that only waits. Grace flows through the one who dares to put a trembling foot upon the water. I know there are times when you choose to hide inside your own cloak, hiding in old memories, hiding in the things you once experienced with me, hiding in familiar moral and religious feelings. You speak often about faith, but you hesitate to step into the places where living, vibrant faith is needed. And so your calling, that which should have been set ablaze, gradually withers in postponement. You become someone who lives off memories instead of living out a mission. I do not want you to only remember what I have done. I want you to see what I am doing right now. Through you, my beloved child. If you keep running away, the season of tears you have sown will bear no fruit. You will carry a quiet regret through the rest of your days, regret that you did not dare to live fully what you were invited to. I do not want, when you look back, for you to see only that you were safe, but not that you truly lived. Safety does not save a soul, only a response does that. I do not need you to be great. I only need you to step out from the place where you are shrinking back into yourself. And then, when you dare to take a single step, even a very small one, you will suddenly understand, I have never asked you to walk alone. I have only been waiting for you to come out of your hiding place, so that I can hold your hand in the midst of the great winds. In that very moment, the flow of grace will be opened again, and you will be ready not only to receive a calling, but also to learn how to live from that calling each day, with real actions, real choices, and real faith. There is one more thing I need you to face before we bring this journey to a close. So many times you have allowed yourself to stop at the point of being moved, without taking even one step further in faith. You listen, you cry, you feel your heart tremble. You quietly say, Lord, I understand. And then the next day you go on living exactly as before. Your emotions are like a passing breeze, touching your face and then disappearing, leaving behind no direction. You think that is already a response, but in reality you have only been standing on the threshold, without ever stepping through. And when the emotion fades, you assume that I have gone silent, when in fact it is you who have stopped, right at the starting point. Many times, The reason you stop is not because you are evil, but because you are afraid. You are afraid that if you really act, others will see you differently, afraid that you will make promises you cannot keep, afraid that if you begin, you will have to leave behind certain things you are still clinging to. And so you keep the grace of enlightenment within the safe bounds of emotion, not allowing it to flow into action. Long ago I told the parable of two sons. The first said, "I will not go to work in the vineyard," but later regretted it and went. The second said, "Yes, I will go," but in the end did not go. Do you know? It is the one who speaks little but is willing to act who truly does the will of the Father. If you speak to me in tears but change nothing afterward, you are like the second son, saying yes with your feelings, but saying no with your life. Therefore today, I am not only inviting you to feel something, I am inviting you to do something. It does not have to be big, it does not have to be complicated. It is enough that you dare to turn what you have heard into a concrete step, a sincere prayer, a firm decision to cut off something you know is killing your soul, an act of forgiveness you have been withholding, a small gesture to honor the inheritance and mission you have received. You can write down what I have stirred in you today. Call it by name, and say to me, "I accept, I step into it." When you do this, emotion will no longer be just a wave that passes by, but will become a seed of faith buried in good soil. Do not think that sharing this message is just pressing a button or following a trend. When you tell someone what I have done in your heart, you are opening a door of healing for them. There are people who hurt like you, who are bound by sin and loss as you are, but they have not yet heard my voice. Your small testimony, a message, a conversation, a word of encouragement, can be the key I use to touch them. If you keep everything to yourself, you not only cut off the flow of healing toward others, but you yourself will gradually dry up, because faith that is not shared is faith that slowly withers in silence. And then, when you are willing to take a step, even a trembling step, even a small step, you will realize that everything I have said to you from the beginning until now is not only to comfort you, but to prepare you. I awaken you from indifference. I draw you out of the cycle of guilt and self-torment. I remind you of the sacred inheritance that has been entrusted to you. I call you out of hiding to live your vocation. And now I invite you to walk in faith so that the flow of healing will no longer be cut off. You will no longer be just someone who once heard a message, but someone who is living that message every day. My child, I stand with you here, not at the end of the road to grade you, but in the middle of the journey to hold your hand. Do not be afraid of having to move forward. It is more fearful to stand still until your heart grows hard and can no longer hear anything. If today you hear my voice, do not delay. Let what you feel become what you live. And when you do so, the season of tears sown will no longer be wasted. It will blossom into a life that knows it is loved, forgiven, entrusted, and sent. My child, what has just passed in your life, the stretches of road you thought were the end, the days you sat helplessly watching everything fall apart, were not really the final full stop of the story, but a page I intentionally folded to prepare for opening a new chapter that is deeper, truer, more mature. But when you are in the midst of feeling abandoned, you cannot see that. You see only broken pieces, unfinished promises, frustrated plans, and a weary heart. And so you quickly call it the end. I do not blame you for that, for I know that when you are in pain, you see everything through the lens of tears. But today I want gently to reshape the way you see every loss, every door that closes, every dream stretched out for yet another season is not a collapse, but new ground being plowed in your soul so that I may sow there what is eternal. Wherever you bleed, There I have placed a seed of life, wherever you feel a silence so still it takes your breath away. There I am quietly guarding the word I spoke to you long ago, waiting for the right moment to bring it into bloom. Many times you think your life is only a series of unfinished things, like puzzle pieces that will never fit together. But you do not see the vantage point from above, where I am looking. I see clearly every fragment you go through. I know where you fall, where you struggle to rise, where you just want to give up. And it is precisely those scattered stretches of road that I am slowly stitching together into a single continuous thread. There will come a time when, as you choose to walk by faith instead of staying in your feelings, you will be astonished to find that the events you once cursed have become the milestones that shaped the person you are today. The separations that seemed to steal everything from you have opened up in you a new depth of soul that you never had before. You will begin to sense within yourself the emergence of a different kind of driving force, not the fleeting excitement of emotion, but a quiet endurance, a gentle steadfastness, like a stream running beneath rocks, slow yet unstoppable. This is the sign that the seeds I sowed in tears are silently sprouting in your heart. I know there are memories you would very much like to bury deep, doors in your heart you want to lock tightly, because every time you touch them you feel as if you cannot breathe. But, my child, do not be too quick to push those memories away as if you were chasing away the dark. Because, in the very things that have happened, even those so painful you do not want to mention them again, there are still lessons and messages I have reserved especially for you. What chains you is not the memory, but the way you see and define it. When you regard them as a verdict, they become a prison, but when you allow me to shed my light on them, they become pages of a sacred journal where you record my footprints through your life. I do not ask you to forget everything, because that is neither realistic nor healthy. I only invite you to learn to look back on the past, not with eyes of self-condemnation, but with the gaze of one who understands there. I was being formed. On your journey there is a treasure that cannot be seen with the naked eye, yet is more real than anything you can hold. It is the invisible inheritance I have left you through the love, the prayers, the sacrifices of those who once were present in your life and are now no longer beside you. There are those who have quietly spoken your name before me many times. There are those who have offered your future into my hands with their sighs. There are those who have silently accepted loss, letting themselves be consumed, just to shield you from certain falls. These things do not disappear when they go. They do not dissolve into the air like smoke, but are gathered by me, refined, and kept in full value in the spiritual realm, like drops of oil stored in a sealed jar. Today, in this very moment, I am opening that jar, not to draw you back into the past, but to hand over to you the portion of the inheritance that has been stored up through the tears and faith of those who went before you. True love does not burn out when a person is no longer here. I simply carry it into a new form. It becomes clarity. It becomes guidance. It becomes an inner strength within you that at times even you do not understand. When you wonder why you are still standing, do you remember the times you almost collapsed but unexpectedly found a little courage to take another step? The moments when you wanted to let go of everything, but inside there was a very gentle voice telling you, don't. The times you narrowly avoided a wrong decision. The moments you were about to say yes to something that did not belong to you, but in the end changed your mind. You thought that was luck, that you just changed on your own. But in reality, that is the history of intercession quietly at work, the proof that the holy inheritance has never been buried. Now, I want you not only to be a vague recipient, but to become someone who is aware I am wearing a cloak. When you realize that you have a share in that inheritance, you will understand why I do not allow you to live like a wanderer, why your conscience is not at peace whenever you try to live contrary to what lies deepest in your heart. It is not because I want to trouble you, but because that cloak is constantly reminding you that you were born to continue a story, not to close it in bitterness. It is true that some things have ended, that some relationships cannot return to what they once were, that some pages of your life cannot be rewritten in the way you desire. But that does not mean that every door is closed. On the contrary, precisely when some of the doors you cherish most are shut, other paths begin to appear. New possibilities within you finally find room to emerge. The gifts I placed in your heart from the very beginning, the capacities, the sensitivity, the compassion, the ability to understand the pain of others, once veiled by the hurried pace of life and small pursuits, are now being gently awakened by me again. You will begin to notice that you are more easily moved by wounded lives than before. You will find that you have words to comfort others in a way that is uniquely yours. You will feel your hands wanting to do something for someone who is hurting as you once were hurt. And that is the moment your calling begins to stir. These things do not fall from heaven at random. They are the fruit of an entire season of cultivation that you have gone through in tears. The proof that I do not waste a single drop of your tears. Therefore, I invite you not to keep turning your back on your own heart, not to keep locking away your capacity to hope and saying to me, I don't dare hope for anything anymore. You do not need to hope in an illusory way, forcing yourself to believe that everything will return to exactly how it once was. But you are allowed to hope in a deeper way, to believe that from this moment on, no matter which road you walk, I can draw good out of what is bad, restore what lies in ruins, and build again out of ashes. What I desire today is not only to comfort you in this present moment, but to lead you to the place where you dare to believe that your life is not over. As long as you still have breath, there is still a chance for that sacred legacy to keep living on through your own choices and actions. When you allow yourself to be healed, not in a single instant once and for all, but step by step with patience, you are opening the way for hope to return. Not like a flash of lightning that flares up and then disappears, but like the quiet dawn rising each day, slipping through the crack in the curtain and reminding you that today you are still allowed to begin again a little, to live a little better than yesterday, to love a little more deeply, to trust a little more firmly. And so, little by little, you will discover that what you once considered the final full stop is only a comma in my hand, so that your story, with all its pain, memories, heritage, and calling, can go on being written in a way that is full of meaning. Do not keep carrying on your back what you could have laid down at my feet. My child, the words you never had time to say, the hugs you never managed to give, the messages you never sent, the last look you keep replaying over and over in your mind. If you hold on to all of that as though it were a sentence you must serve upon yourself, you will be exhausted before you can even take half a step forward on the new journey I am calling you into. I am not inviting you to move on with your hands tied and your heart in pieces. I am gently, yet firmly asking you to hand back to me each fragment of torment that you think you must keep as a deserved punishment. You do not need to punish yourself anymore, because I did not create you to live your whole life as an accused standing in the dock. I want you to learn to live as a child who knows they are forgiven, loved, and sent. You have cried long enough. You have gone round and round the same wound enough times. Now is the time for you to allow yourself to lift your head and take a full, deep breath, like a child stepping out of a dark room that has been closed for years, and finally seeing the light slip in through the crack of the door. Do not let all the if only and what if become a noose around the neck of your soul anymore. They do not make the past more beautiful. They only make the present heavier and the future more obscure. I am here not to remind you of what you failed to do. I am here to ask you something very simple yet very serious from this moment on. Do you want to live differently? If you are willing to pause and listen, you will realize my voice does not come to terrify you, but to open for you a way out of the maze of emotions and obsessions. For so long you have been used to letting your feelings lead the way when you feel like you are a mess. You hide when you feel unworthy. You stay silent when you feel weak. You stand still. But my child, emotions are only waves. They rise and fall. They come and go. They cannot be the foundation for an entirely new life. I am not asking you to deny your emotions. I am only asking you not to put them in the driver's seat. To let me lead means that there will still be times you feel sad, still tremble, still hesitate. But you choose to trust my word more than the negative whispers inside your own head. That is the very first step of faith, not feeling strong, but daring to give me the right to lead, even when you are still trembling. When you do that, certain things in the unseen world begin to shift into a new order that you cannot fully perceive. Doors that have long been shut start to open a crack. Relationships that seemed dead are touched again. Wounds that seemed never to heal begin to ache less. I want you to understand that every time you sincerely return and say, "Father, here I am. I don't understand everything, but I believe," heaven does not remain still. You are not just saying a few lines to complete a ritual. You are sending a clear signal into the spiritual realm. This child is willing to let the Father act. At that moment, the angels are no longer just a vague concept in books. They are sent to protect, to open pathways, to fight in battles you do not even have the strength to see, let alone to win. Many times you think you suddenly feel at peace again. Someone just happened to show up at the right time. You just happened to escape a terrible situation. But you do not realize that behind what you call coincidence there is an entire strategy of salvation that I and the angels have quietly arranged. That is why I earnestly invite you not to stop at a passing emotion. Because every time you truly respond, every time you choose to believe, a new wave of grace is activated in your life. Try to imagine your life as a house that has long been closed up. Inside are rooms covered in dust, damp and moldy corners, doors that have never been opened because you are afraid of what might appear behind them. The guilt, shame, and regret over things left unsaid and undone are like layers of locks wrapped all around, making that house darker with each passing day. Today I stand at the door of that house and knock, not loudly, not by breaking in, but with the steady, patient knocking of a father who does not grow tired. When I tell you open your hands, I am not only talking about a few symbolic gestures during prayer. I am telling you to release those locks, one by one. Forgive yourself. Stop playing the judge in your own case. Accept that the past cannot be changed but can be redeemed. When I tell you open your eyes, I am inviting you to look at your life no longer through the lens of guilt, but with the gaze of someone learning to recognize my footprints in every small detail, a word of comfort at the right time, a new opportunity, an unexpected open door at work, a companion I send to walk with you. And when I tell you open your life, I want you to no longer shrink back into the role of someone who only knows how to endure, but to begin to live as someone ready to receive and to give. I understand your fear when you hear words like something new, another journey, because your mind instantly fills with questions. What if I fail again? What if I hurt others again? What if I can't keep what I promise? But, my child, what I am waiting for from you is not a flawless contract, but an honest heart. You can say to me, I am still afraid, but I don't want to keep running. I am still weak, but I don't want to live like someone paralyzed anymore. I still don't see clearly, but I want to follow. Even that confession, if it comes from your heart, is enough to move the whole of heaven, because it shows that you are no longer revolving around yourself, but beginning to revolve around me. That is the starting point for every lasting transformation. I want you to realize that every true conversion begins very quietly, not with dramatic performances that impress the world, but with small, hidden decisions that only you and I know. The decision to switch off something that you know will drag you back into the same old mud. The decision to open scripture on an evening when before you would have chosen to scroll your phone. The decision to say, "I'm sorry," even while your ego still hurts. The decision to send someone a word of encouragement instead of remaining silent. These things may seem insignificant to you, but to me, they are the very first bricks of a new road. It is a road on which every step you take, I am there, steadying your trembling feet, wiping away each drop of sweat, and smiling when I see that even when you stumble. You do not go back to the place where you once fell. Take a deep breath, not only to regain your composure, but to remind yourself that you are still alive. And if you are still alive, it means I still have plans for you. The breath moving in and out of your chest is not just a biological reflex. It is a sign that your time on this earth is still unfolding, and every remaining moment can become part of the story of salvation if you are willing to place it in my hands. Do not rush to declare a verdict on yourself based on old chapters. Pages, blurred with tears, can still become the backdrop for a more glorious climax. If the author of the story, I, is allowed to keep on writing instead of having the pen taken from my hand because you feel unworthy. The extraordinary thing I desire to do in your life does not have to be loud or spectacular so that the whole world notices. Often the greatest miracle is the one that happens very quietly. A heart that once shrank back in fear, learning how to open and trust. A soul once haunted by guilt, learning to look up and call me Father with a voice that trembles, yet is sincere. A person who once lived for the approval of others, learning to place their worth instead in my gaze. When these things happen, the heavens rejoice, and all the tears of the past, yours, those of the one who loved you, and even mine, do not fall in vain. I do not promise you that from now on everything will be easy. There will still be days when you find yourself facing the same sadness again. Hours when you wonder whether you are really growing or just standing still. But I assure you of this: if you keep choosing to return to me, to keep walking after me, however small your steps, then not a single step is meaningless. Even when you get lost, I will use the very stretch of wandering to teach you something deeper about grace. Even when you fall, I will use that very fall to show you that my love does not change. And when you realize that you are loved, even in your fragility, you will slowly lose your fear of moving forward. Therefore, I want you to see this moment as a milestone. Do not treat it as just another time you felt moved and then left it at that. Let it become the moment you decide not to live any longer under the yoke of past sins, under the weight of unsaid words, under the shadow of missed opportunities. You cannot go back to fix the days that are gone, but you can absolutely join me in rewriting their meaning. You can let them become testimony instead of a sentence. You can let them become the driving force to love more, to serve more deeply, to live more awake. And I will walk with you in the smallest things, like a father who patiently teaches his child to walk and rejoices aloud every time he sees you take one more step. Take one more breath now, my child, deep and slow, as though you were breathing in all the new hope I am placing before you. Then walk on with me. No need for noise. No need to prove anything. Only be real. Only be faithful. Only do not let go of my hand. The rest, leave to me and to the heavens above. And one day, when you look back, you will realize that from this seemingly small moment, the moment you dared to open your heart, something extraordinary truly began in your life. Quietly, but in a way that can never be reversed. My beloved child, now be still for a moment, as when night falls and all the sounds outside fade away, until only the beating of your heart remains and the sighs you share with no one. because I want to whisper to you about something I have long been quietly weaving into your life, yet which you have never truly seen. Along the path you have traveled, there was someone who stepped into your life, not by accident, not as a passing figure, but as a gift I sent to you, wrapped in the form of care, in simple questions, in quiet meals, in anxious glances when you were tired, in reminders that seemed so ordinary that more than once you brushed them aside. That person may have been your mother, your father, your grandparents, a relative, or someone whose name you can no longer clearly call to mind. But I have not forgotten. They did not leave you only a few old photographs, a few worn objects, a few scattered sentences. They left, in the sacred realm, a streak of light bearing your name, woven from all the hidden moments when they placed you before me, while you were busy growing up, busy clashing with life, busy chasing after what you thought was important. They quietly stepped back, knelt down, or simply sat silently on the edge of the bed, closed their eyes and whispered to me about your life. They called your name not once or twice, but many, many times, sometimes in joy, sometimes in anxiety, sometimes in fear of losing you, sometimes in days when they themselves were exhausted, yet still tried to beg that you would be sheltered, guided, and given a life that would not lose its way. Those whispers did not dissolve into the air, did not vanish into nothingness, and did not cease when they closed their eyes in death. I listened to every one of them, cherished them, and kept them like precious drops of oil in my jar, placed in a very deep place in the heart of God, waiting for the day when you would be grown enough, cracked enough, thirsty enough for those drops of oil to be poured out, seeping into the parched regions of your soul. You think you only have a handful of broken memories, long-gone conversations, unfinished stories that now, when recalled, only make you hurt more. You think those days have passed, and that death or distance has cut every thread between the present and the past. But my child, in my world, sincere love is never broken by time, much less erased by death. There are things that belong to the body that must eventually part ways, but there are things of the soul that begin to bloom precisely from the moment of farewell. That person may no longer sit beside you, may no longer call your name with that familiar voice, may no longer wait for you to come home each evening, but what they once offered you to me still stands firm before my holy presence, like a prayer that has never been withdrawn. In the moments when you feel most alone, convinced that no one understands, no one is by your side, you have no idea that behind you stretches a long history of prayer, like an invisible shield between you and the abyss. There were so many times when you could have slipped further, wandered farther, sunk deeper, and yet suddenly something happened. A door closed. An inexplicable obstacle appeared. A protection you could not explain surrounded you. You called it good luck, but I call it answers to the tears that were once shed for you. Remember the times you stood at a crossroads, your mind reeling because you had no idea which way to go, and yet in the end, you chose a path that did not push you into a deeper pit. Remember the times you thought you had lost everything, yet at the last moment, a small way opened up. Remember the moments when you were convinced you could not get back up, and yet the next morning you still woke up, still dragged your feet forward, still found a strange extra measure of strength so that you did not collapse. None of that was random, not the work of a god of luck, nor merely the hidden strength within you. They are the traces of a stream of grace that had been prepared long before, flowing quietly through the prayers that person offered on your behalf throughout all the years when you were still naive, still careless, still unaware of how deeply you were loved. each time they closed their eyes and forced their weary heart to keep calling your name. I was there. Every tear that fell because of you I recorded, not as a dry statistical chart, but as seeds of life being buried in the earth. A seed does not sprout immediately. It cracks open in silence, in darkness, over time. And in the same way, the prayers of intercession they made for you may not have shown results right away. But one day, in the very midst of your crisis, they will begin to take root and push up through the soil of your heart as something new. Try to look again at how you have been preserved. There were times when you almost decided to do something that would have turned your life down a very dark path. But then a sudden phone call, a single comment from someone, or an event that seemed insignificant pulled you back. There were times when you were so weary that you wanted to let everything go. But then a song rose up somewhere. A line from my word passed before your eyes. A memory of that person unexpectedly touched your heart, and you could not bring yourself to destroy who you are. You thought it was coincidence. But I want you to know there is no coincidence in my love for you. I use the smallest fragments, the simplest details of daily life, to form a gentle hedge around you, keeping you from destroying yourself. And most of those good coincidences are bound up with the moments when that person offered you to me, placed you in my hands, entrusted to me a future they were not sure they would live long enough to see. Have you ever wondered why? Even when you lose your way, there is still a restlessness in you, a very deep tone that the world cannot silence. Have you noticed that no matter where you run, no matter what pleasures you hide in, there is always a part of you that never truly feels at home in the darkness? That is not merely conscience in some vague sense. It is the fruit of prayers that begged, "Please keep this child for you. Please do not let this one be lost." That is why you can never be at peace when you live contrary to what I have prepared for you. The legacy they left you is not a burden forcing you to become perfect according to anyone's standards. That legacy is, above all, a gentle yet powerful reminder that you were not born to live a makeshift, second-hand life. My child, I am not telling you these things so that you live in regret, thinking, "I did not respond soon enough. I did not love them well enough, or I let them down." I do not want to turn the past into a whip lashing your heart. I speak to you so that you will see that you are not as empty-handed as you think. You are not an orphan in the spiritual realm. You are someone standing in the middle of a hidden treasure. You simply have not turned around to open it. Every prayer said for you, every time they were exhausted, yet still lifted you up in their mind, became a spiritual investment deposited into the future of your life. Now, as you walk through a land full of trials, I begin to remind you of these things, not so that you turn back in nostalgia, but so that you move forward with courage, knowing that behind you there is an invisible hedge woven from human love and the faithfulness of God. You have become so used to thinking of inheritance as houses, money, land, things that can be measured and counted. But I am giving you something else, the inheritance of intercession and offering. That person once entrusted you to me, and I accepted. That act did not end when they left this world. I do not forget covenants made in love. I do not forget the times they said, "Lord, I do not know how far I will have the strength to walk with this child, but please go with them, even when I am no longer by their side." Today I am fulfilling those very words. I step into your pain, into your loss, into your shock, not as a judge coming to interrogate you, but as a father coming to remind you, you are not here alone. You are carrying forward the story of those who loved you and trusted in me. What I ask of you is not to carry on your shoulders a rigid sense of duty, not to live under the pressure of repaying those tears. What I desire is that you do not bury everything beneath the thick soil of fear, guilt, or indifference. Let what was sown for you begin to blossom within you. Let your heart grow soft instead of freezing over in grief. Allow yourself to believe that your life can still bear fruit, not only for you, but for others, for that is the only way the prayers of intercession from long ago will not remain locked in the past, but will continue to breathe in the present. You can begin in very simple ways with a sincere thank you offered to me on their behalf, with a decision to live more kindly, more cleanly in your thoughts and actions, by choosing forgiveness instead of resentment, choosing to move forward instead of lying forever beside your wounds. Every time you choose the light, that legacy is activated. No choice is insignificant when it is made under my gaze. No act of love is wasted when it springs from a love that has gone before you. And, my child, the most beautiful thing is not that you only keep what has been given to you, but that one day you yourself will become someone who leaves an invisible legacy for those who come after. You will not only be the one who is prayed for, but the one who knows how to pray for others. You will not only be protected by intercession, but become someone who stretches out your arms to shield other hearts, using your own experience of pain and healing. On that day, you will understand that none of the losses, none of the tears, none of the times you fell but were lifted up again, were meaningless. They are part of the mission of continuing to live that I have placed within you, the mission of carrying forward the story of love. The mission of letting the flow of spiritual inheritance not stop at one name, but spread through your very life. Like ripples spreading across the surface of the water when a single tear falls into my hand. For everything I have told you about not stopping at emotion but walking in faith is not meant to add another burden to your shoulders, but to ready you to look at your life with new eyes. Today, I want you to understand more deeply. This is not only an invitation, it is a time that has been appointed, not some vague one day in the future, not when you are stronger, not when the pain has vanished completely, but right now. It is precisely when you feel weakest that I am awakening in you things you never knew you carried. What is stirring within you is not simply maturity through experience, not only the fact that you grow after each fall, but the movement of a current that was sown long ago through the prayers, tears, sacrifices, and love of the one who walked before you. They placed your name into their pleas, entrusted your future into my hands, asked me to keep your heart and lead your soul through stretches of the road they knew they would not be able to accompany you on with their mortal feet. And now those prayers are blooming within you. Have you noticed that there are moments when you are strangely calm in the midst of chaos? Days when you stand at a fork in the road and suddenly feel your heart lean toward a wiser choice, even though by nature you are hesitant and impulsive. Moments when words come from your lips to comfort others, and, looking back later, you yourself are surprised that you could even think such thoughts. None of this is a random flash of lightning that flares and then disappears into the night. Nor is it simply that you have become better over time. They are the quiet signs that a spiritual legacy is at work in you. An invisible yet real continuation born of the sincere love of the one who loved you to the very end, and of my own hand, which is weaving everything together. I want you to return to those final moments you shared with that person, not to deepen your pain, but to read them again in a new light. That hug that seemed so ordinary, that remark you thought was casual, that gaze that lingered a few seconds longer, that voice dropping low as though it wanted to carve something into your heart. Even the silences between you that you could not make sense of at the time, all of these were not empty moments. Hidden beneath that simplicity, I allowed a transfer to take place, a passing on of responsibility, a passing on of blessing, a passing on of faith. That day, for you, may have been nothing more than a farewell, but for heaven it was only a semicolon, a pause to open the next part of a story. The author is still writing. That day was a sealing, a moment I used to place my mark upon your soul. declaring that from then on you would carry not only longing, but also an unfinished part of a mission. You may not have heard any clear voice. No solemn words were proclaimed. Yet through every small gesture, I allowed a quiet promise to be sown into your heart. And today, as you sit here listening to me, is the moment that seed begins to break open and sprout. When I speak to you about inheritance, I am not calling you to live forever in the past, nor forcing you to strain to become some version of the one who has gone before. I am showing you that there is a quiet voice still walking with you in every step. It is not an illusion, not something you invent so you will feel less alone, but a very real communion in the spiritual realm. True love does not end when life on earth stops. It simply changes form. The one who loved you with a human heart now loves you with a heart that has been purified in my presence. They are no longer beside you in a way you can touch, yet their love has been absorbed into the stream of grace I am pouring out over your life. That is why, at times, you sense a support you cannot name, a gentle consolation that does not come from anyone around you, a soft urging that reminds you not to give up. All of these are the cord that links ancient prayer to your present life, the traces of a legacy that has not died but has simply passed from one hand to another pair of shoulders. I am the God who wastes no tear. What you think is lost never becomes nothing in me. For you, that day of separation may seem like the final chapter of a book, the bitter full stop at the end of a beautiful story, but, in my eyes, it is only a transition. I know there are moments when you secretly complain. Why does it have to be me? Why did they go while I stay behind with all this emptiness? I do not rebuke you for those questions, but I want you to know this: you remain, not to be punished, but to continue. You remain to become living evidence that love bound to me never stops at the grave, but continues to bear fruit through the lives of those who are willing to receive the inheritance entrusted to them. The new experiences you have of inner strength, the times you thought you would collapse but did not, the moments you wanted to abandon everything yet still chose to rise. Do not dismiss these as stubbornness or sheer toughness of character. See them as the fruit of countless times that person knelt and begged me that you would not break, as my answers to quiet cries that you may never fully know in this life. And today I tell you this so that you may cease living like someone in debt. Stop thinking you are unworthy of such graces, and stop doubting that all of this is somehow unreal. Take courage and receive this truth as a ray of light entering the deepest place in your heart. You are not only a bearer of wounds, you are a bearer of a seal. You carry not only the scars of loss but also the sign of continuation. You yourself are the flesh and blood answer to prayers that were offered up long before you were even aware that you were being prayed for. You are the harvest of quiet days of sowing, of years in which someone steadfastly trusted that I would protect you, lead you through storms, and use you to continue the good they began. When I look at you, I do not see an empty soul. I see a treasure yet unopened, a mantle still folded, a lamp filled with oil that has not yet been fully lit. And I do not say this to burden you, but to ease your fear. For if this is the inheritance I have arranged to entrust to you, then I also know your limits. I have already taken into account the times you will be tired, weak, and wavering. This inheritance was not designed to crush you, but to cover you, to mark you, to raise you into the place I have chosen for you. I do not wait for you to become perfect before I place this garment on your shoulders. It is this very garment, this inheritance, that will gradually shape you into the person you are called to be. Therefore, instead of shrinking back under the feeling of, I am not worthy, begin to say to me with a new response, if this is what you, Father, have prepared for me, please teach me how to walk in it. That simple response will open up a new current. It will help you see every event no longer as a chain of random happenings crashing down on your life, but as pieces I am fitting together for a more complete picture. It will help you receive memories not as a stabbing knife, but as a lamp that shows the way. It will help you stop rejecting the beautiful changes being born within you, and instead bow in gratitude that I have used even what you thought was loss to form a new person in you. Do not be afraid that if you acknowledge you are carrying this inheritance, you will have to strain and tense yourself so as not to disappoint me or betray the one who loved you. The truth is, I am not waiting for you to make yourself worthy of the inheritance. I am only waiting for you to open your heart so that I can lead you step by step, and the one who has gone before you, now in my light, does not desire that you live in fear. They long for you to live in freedom, freedom to continue the story we have been writing together, freedom to stand amid your pain and say, I do not understand everything, but I know I am being led. When you accept the reality that you are a continuation and not a full stop, the way you see yourself will change, and the way you face the future will change as well. You will no longer walk as someone with no place to belong, but as one who travels a road already strewn with blessings. You will no longer merely beg for a little peace just to get through the day, but will begin to ask me to teach you how to live in a way worthy of what you have received, the grace of forgiveness, the grace of protection, the grace of being called by name in my plan. And one day, when you look back on the path you have walked, you will clearly see every time you chose to rise, every time you chose to go on, that inheritance was being activated, not only keeping you from sinking, but also reaching those who look at your life to find a reason to hope. Today, I lay my hand upon your shoulder in silence and say this to you as a final confirmation before you move forward. There is not a single moment, not a single tear, not a single prayer that has fallen into meaningless emptiness. All of them are converging in you, so that from now on, you will not merely tell a sad story of loss, but a deep story of continuation. You are not only a witness to a chapter that has closed, you are the one holding the pen to write the next pages. Under my guidance, beneath the tender gaze of the one who loved you, and within the flow of a sacred inheritance that no death can erase. My little one, in my hands. Now I want you to look back calmly, a little more slowly, so that you may recognize that what is happening within you is not just a passing wave of emotion that will disappear. The memories you once treated as old film reels, the recollections that came and went whenever you missed the one who has gone, are today stirring like a new current of life, as though something within you has just been awakened. What was sown long ago through prayers you never heard, and sacrifices you knew nothing about. Moments when someone quietly spoke your name before me is no longer lying still. It is like a seedling that has silently taken root in the dark, watered by many tears and many silent nights. And today it begins to push through the soil, reaching for the light. Do not be quick to dismiss the unease, the inner urging, the restlessness you are experiencing. It is not disorder, but the sound of a spiritual life awakening within you. I am using your very heart as the place where I cause something new to grow, not out of nothing, but out of all that has been handed down from the generations before you, from those who have loved you to the very end. Have you ever wondered why, in the moments that feel most hopeless, you still find a tiny ray of light that keeps you from collapsing completely? Why, when every thought drags you toward negativity and despair, there is still a very small voice inside whispering, do not let go? Why, when everything around you encourages a life of resignation, you can never fully agree with it, as though there is a part of you that refuses to accept that you were born merely to exist and then vanish. You think it is personality, willpower, or good fortune. But I tell you, it is the imprint of the inheritance that I and those who loved you have placed within you. The unexpected calm that appears when you stand before important decisions. The ability to discern what you should avoid even when no one has explained it clearly. the intuition that draws you out of a toxic relationship or away from a wrong step, all of that is not a random product. It is the result of a stream of grace that was opened long ago through intercessory prayers and hidden cries. A stream that is now rising within your own heart. I want you to realize that what is moving within you at this moment does not come only from the present. It is the continuation of a long story. There were nights when you were far too small to understand, that someone stood before me and said, "Please shield this child. Please do not let them go astray. Please use their life for something that belongs to you." Those words did not fall into meaningless emptiness. I kept them as a farmer keeps good seed. I tended them, waited, watched the time, and today, right when you think you are left only with broken pieces, I choose this very moment for those seeds to sprout, not because you are more worthy than anyone else, but because now you have become soft enough to understand that you can no longer lead yourself. When you think you have lost everything, that is precisely when your heart is most ready to receive what has long been yours. Yet you never dared believe you did not enter this world empty-handed. You were born with a share in a spiritual inheritance. I call all of this a mantle, not the kind of cloak people parade in with pride, but a quiet mantle that covers you, so that you are not left bare in life's storms. This mantle is not woven from fabric, but from faithfulness, faith, tears, and surrender. It bears my imprint upon your life. It gives you an identity. You are no longer a wanderer searching for support, but someone who has a place within my plan. When you feel rising in your heart a desire to live in a way worthy of the love you have been given, when your conscience stirs painfully at the suffering of others, when you realize you can no longer endure seeing yourself continue to live without meaning, that is the moment this mantle is being placed upon your shoulders. You may not see it, but your soul can feel its weight at once, a burden and an honor. I do not deny the heaviness you feel whenever you hear the word responsibility. You are exhausted by the false burdens this life has piled on you that you must succeed, must please others, must appear strong, must hold back your tears. I have not come to load you with yet another burden like that. The mantle I place on you is not a chain tightening around your neck, but a gentle affirmation. You belong to me, and your life has meaning. The responsibility I invite you to receive does not begin with what you must do for me. It begins with how deeply you dare to believe you are loved. When you consent to wear this mantle, the first change is that you no longer live like someone who has lost themselves. No longer tell yourself that you are just an extra, and only then do you slowly learn how to live in a way worthy of this new identity. Privilege and responsibility always go together. I do not entrust you with something precious merely for you to lock it away in a drawer, but neither do I force you to spend this life straining yourself in my direction. I walk with you, step by step. You may ask, how can I know that this is a sacred inheritance and not simply my personality changing over time? Look more deeply. Why is it that the more loss you pass through, the more sensitive you become to the pain of others instead of growing numb? Why is it that, instead of shutting down completely, there is a part of you that wants to embrace those who are collapsing as you once did and say, I understand you. Do not give up. Why is it that, amid all the temptations urging you to live only for yourself, you still hear within you a call to live wider, deeper, more truthfully? These are the signs of a current that does not spring from your own instinct for self-defense, but from a place higher and deeper, the place where I am slowly shaping you in my image. I am forming you not only to know how to survive, but to become a source of support for others one day. The inheritance I give you is not a shining medal for you to pin on your chest and display before others. It is more like a lamp placed in the hands of someone walking through the night. That person can choose to hide the lamp under their cloak, stumbling as they walk and blaming the darkness of the road, or they can choose to lift the lamp high, letting it light the way for themselves and for those who walk beside them. When you receive this sacred legacy, the first thing that changes is not the image you present on the outside for others to see, but the way you look at yourself and at life. You stop asking, "Why is all this happening to me?" and begin to ask, "How am I called to live in the face of all that has happened?" You stop staring only at what has been taken away and gradually recognize what has been given. This transformation does not happen once for all. It unfolds day by day. In every choice, in each way you respond to difficulty, in the way you speak to your own heart when no one else is watching. Do not imagine that when I speak of a mantle and an inheritance, I am pushing you into some grand plan beyond all imagining, forcing you to live a life of constant strain. I am not inviting you to play the hero. I am inviting you to live in accordance with your true soul. In truth, what has drained you for so long is not your calling, but your attempt to live against that calling. You were born to love and to be loved, yet you have tried to appear cold. You were born to lift others up, yet you have locked yourself in the shell of "I can manage on my own." You were born to walk at my side, yet you have tried to run alone and only cry out to me when you collapse. You are weary because you keep moving against the grain. When you begin to step in the right direction, even if the first steps are slow, trembling, and clumsy, you will feel lighter and more at peace, because you are finally walking on the path that was written for you from the beginning. I know your heart is still full of questions. If this is the inheritance the Lord is giving me, if this is the mantle He lays over me, what am I supposed to do with it? How must I change? My child, you do not need to have a clear plan right away. The first step is not to do, but to receive. Say to me, in prayer, with a simple, honest sentence rising from your empty hands, "I do not understand it all, but if this is the portion you have set aside for me, I accept it. Teach me how to live in a way worthy of it." When you dare to say these words, even with a trembling heart, you have already taken a great step beyond your old comfort zone. You have admitted that you are not merely a victim of circumstances, but someone who is called. From there, I will gradually show you each small thing, a person who needs your support, a small task you can faithfully carry out, a habit you need to release, a gift you are meant to nurture. Nothing will be sudden, but nothing will be meaningless. I also want you to understand this. A sacred inheritance is not given only for your feelings. It flows outward to those around you. When you consent to let me use your life, you will see that old wounds, instead of only knocking you down, become places where others can find true comfort. The loneliness that once pierced your heart now becomes a capacity for deep listening. The times when you thought you would never get back up now allow you to hold someone who is collapsing and say, "I have been there, and I know the Lord does not abandon us." You no longer live like an onlooker to your own life, watching everything happen without understanding its meaning, but become someone who knows that every detail, both beautiful and painful, is being used by me to weave a story with the power to heal. Finally, I want you to remember this, whether you accept this inheritance or not, whether you put on this mantle or not. My love for you does not diminish, but your choice will shape the quality of your soul's life. You can choose to spend the years ahead merely existing, fulfilling your duties, playing out your roles, yet remaining empty inside. Or you can choose to live as someone who knows where they stand in my heart and knows they are carrying something greater than themselves. I respect your freedom. I do not force you, but I earnestly invite you, because I see a horizon you have not yet glimpsed. A day will come when, looking back, you will recognize that not a single tear you shed was wasted. Not a single prayer spoken by those who loved you was meaningless. Not a single dark season was unnecessary. All of it has been gathered up, placed into your hands as a treasure, and you will have had the courage to open it, to walk with it, and to pass it on to those who come after you. My child, I want you to linger with me a little longer, right here, at this point, where your heart has been stirred but is still hesitant, not yet daring to trust fully. There are things you thought were shattered, lost along the way, swallowed by forgetfulness together with goodbyes, last handshakes, and promises left unfinished. Yet, in my world, not a single fragment of genuine love is ever lost. Not one of your tears falls without being gathered by me. The separation that once tore your heart apart and made you think the pages of your life had closed was not a final full stop, but a turning of the stream, where the story moves into a new chapter with a different perspective, deeper and more mature. Every tenderness you once received through someone's embrace, through small, everyday care, through gentle words of guidance, I have taken note of, preserved, purified, and now returned to you in a deeper form, as nourishment for your soul. When you thought your memories were nothing but cuts on your heart, I have been using them as a kind of spiritual food. They are becoming wisdom, compassion, and a new way of seeing as you face life and your own self. Time, in your eyes, may look like a ruthless current, sweeping everything away, fading even what you consider sacred. But in my eyes, time is like a skillful hand chiseling a rough stone so that what is true can gradually reveal its beauty. What is illusory and clings only to passing emotion will fade, but love, whose roots are in me, will be polished brighter through the years until, at the right moment, it flares up like a lamp in the night. That moment is not some vague, distant future, nor a someday you long for but hardly dare to name. That moment is now, this very instant, as you sit before me, listening to me speak to you and feeling that you have not been forgotten. Now, not later, is when I place my hand beneath you to lift you up, not only so that you will hurt less, but so that you may continue walking as a living continuation of what was begun in sincere love. In you I see not merely someone who has survived loss, but someone who carries within themselves the story I have sown into your family, into that relationship, into those who have gone before you. You do not replace anyone, but you are the next beat in a melody that has never been silenced. When you allow me to touch your wounds, to tell you that nothing has been thrown away, you will begin to notice very concrete signs that you once overlooked or dismissed as coincidence. You will realize that, even without preparation, you can utter words that are gentle and timely when you meet someone else collapsing as you once did. In the past, when faced with another's suffering, you could only keep quiet or clumsily search for a few phrases to get through the moment. But now you find within yourself a strange tenderness, unhurried, non-judgmental, free of empty platitudes. You are able to listen longer, to be more patient, to remain silent when silence is needed, and to speak just a small sentence that nonetheless reaches the very depths of the listener's heart. This is not because you have become better on your own. It is a sign that the love you once received, which you thought was lost, is being reborn by me as wisdom and compassion. You will also notice that your way of looking at people has changed. Instead of seeing others through quick labels, weak, troublesome, annoying, they brought it on themselves. You begin to look deeper within you, see the fear hiding beneath anger, the loneliness crouching behind a strong exterior, the hidden corners people try to cover with a polite smile. This is not so that you can reopen their wounds, but so that you can touch the very place of pain without making it bleed more. In the past, you may have unintentionally hurt others by speaking too quickly and judging too soon. Now, if you allow me to lead you, you will know how to lay a gentle hand on the cracks in another's heart. Like someone who has known suffering and therefore understands exactly which kind of touch increases the pain, and which kind brings comfort. Little by little, you will discover that what you once thought was only your private story is being used by me as a bridge to bring you close to other hearts. I do not turn you into a public speaker or force you to stand on a stage recounting your old wounds. I only ask that you do not bury all those experiences in the dark pit of shame. For if you are willing to revisit those past chapters with me, not to put yourself on trial again, but to see my hand present within them, then every stretch of road you have walked will become part of the equipment you carry to support someone else who stands where you once stood. This is how I turn pain into capital, loss into a kind of invisible wealth, and you, the one who once thought you had nothing left, into a person who carries a hidden treasure within. You must understand that when you choose to live as though everything is over, you are denying not only your own future, but also all that I and those who have loved you have so carefully sown into you. But when you accept the truth that nothing that was done in love has been wasted, that love, even when it has ended in its former form, still continues in another way, you begin to step out of the role of victim and live as one who has been entrusted with something. In that moment, you no longer ask bitterly, "Why did that happen to me?" but you dare to ask instead, "In the light of all this, who am I being called to become? And what can I do for those who are hurting as I have hurt?" That question opens up a new path, the path of someone who no longer imprisons himself in the room of shattered memories, but dares to step into the world with hands that are imperfect yet willing, to hold the hearts that are cracking as yours once did. Then you will understand more deeply that I raised you up not only so you could stand on your own, but so that you might become the outstretched hands of those who once held yours and are now in me. Every prayer that person offered for you, every time they spoke your name before me, every tear they shed in concern for your future, none of it disappeared into some vague emptiness. I gathered it all, as a farmer gathers good seed into his barn, waiting for the right season to sow. And now I am scattering that seed along your steps, into the way you think, into the way you love, into the way you forgive, into the way you are patient with others and even with yourself. You may not be able to sense it fully, but every time you choose to respond with gentleness instead of irritation, to remain in silent prayer instead of speaking harsh words, to stay beside someone who is collapsing instead of turning your back and walking away, you are allowing that inheritance to be revealed. At that point, you are no longer merely a child of the past, but someone who is shouldering a story that is longer than you, wider than you, and stretches beyond the boundary of life and death as you once understood them in such a narrow way. I want you to know that there is no page in your life that is a surplus page. Every time you have loved sincerely, every person who has touched your life with a true heart, every interceding prayer that has whispered your name before my throne has helped to weave the garment you are wearing today. You may not like a few of the patterns on it. You may wish that certain threads had never appeared. But I am the one who sees the whole design. I know what storms this cloak will shield you from, among which crowds it will mark you out. And through it you will be recognized by those who need your presence. What I desire from you is not that you try to become some other version of yourself, but that you have the courage to wear, in its fullness, the garment I have tailored just for you, even when it is woven from experiences you would never have chosen at the time. I understand that. When you look back at what has happened to you, there is still bitterness. There is still a lump in your throat. There are still questions without answers. But if you keep looking at those chapters only as mistakes or tragedies that should never have happened, you will continue to live as someone robbed. If you let me lead you to look again at those pages with my eyes, you will begin to see another layer of meaning. The love was real. The sacrifice was real. The prayer was real. And all of it is pushing you forward, not dragging you back. Then memory will no longer be the chain that holds you frozen in place. but the bridge by which you cross over to the far shore of maturity. You will blame yourself less, blame life less, blame me less, and begin to understand that what matters is not why things turned out differently, but what you will do with what you are holding in your hands today. Here and now, I want you to believe this: you are not the sad ending of someone else's story. You are the continuation that I, myself, am choosing to write. You are not the evidence of a love that has failed. You are the living proof that when love is entrusted to me, it is never buried, but is transformed into support and healing for many others. And it is precisely when you agree to step into that role, not by big slogans, but by small choices each day, that you will truly begin to sense that nothing in your life is meaningless, that no loss exists merely to harm you, and that no farewell is strong enough to erase what I have inscribed in your soul from the very beginning. I am standing at the end of that painful stretch of road, waiting for you to step out of the region of ashes, not in order to forget, but to carry forward what is most precious. And as you walk, you will realize that everything you thought had been dropped and lost has, in fact, been kept by me all along, simply waiting for the day it could be returned to you in a new form. Deeper, more mature, so beautiful that even you will be amazed. My child, when you begin not to stop at fleeting feelings but truly desire to follow what I stir within your heart, you will realize that you need a gift. The world cannot give you the gift of discernment, of knowing what comes from me, what is merely the noise of life, and what is only an illusion born of fear and woundedness. I do not leave you to walk in total darkness. I want to open the eyes within you so that, amid many invitations and countless options, you can recognize which direction brings your soul a deep peace, even when much ahead remains unclear. If you only chase what excites you for a moment, you will grow exhausted from constantly changing course. But if you learn to listen to me in silence, you will gradually distinguish which call is truly meant for you in the midst of so many crossroads. That sensitivity does not come overnight. It is formed as you cultivate the habit of sitting with me and with your own heart. When something happens, instead of reacting hastily, you can ask, Father, here and now, what matters most for me? What do I need to hold on to, and what do I need to let go of? Some things may look urgent, but if you examine them in my light, you will see they are only trying to pull you away from what is essential. There are other things that at first seem small and hardly worth your attention. Yet when you place them before me, you will sense a very gentle but clear prompting. Do not take this lightly. It is the first step on a new path. When you allow me to help you discern in this way, you will no longer be swept away by every gust of wind, but will begin to choose for yourself a way that is quiet yet deep and steady. Then you will come to see that the things in your life, which once seemed hopelessly stuck, do not change by accident. There are gates in your heart, in your relationships, in your future, that have been shut tight for a very long time. You have knocked for so long without a sound that you have come to think of them as fate, as dead ends, as full stops. But when you are willing to sit down, to re-examine everything with me, to dare to let go of what you know is pulling you away from me, and to dare to take hold of what I am stirring up in you, even when it is not easy, you will see those doors begin to tremble, not with a roar like in fairy tales, but slowly, quietly, yet very truly, as if at the deepest level of your being, an invisible hand were turning a key that has been waiting for this day for a very long time. Have you ever considered that this key does not lie somewhere outside your life, but within the invisible inheritance I have entrusted to you, the hidden prayers of the one who once knelt for you, the times they spoke your name with all their love and tears before me, the silent sacrifices they made so that you could walk a brighter path? All these did not vanish when they departed. They have become a gentle current of grace flowing after you. Like a spiritual treasure in your name, in the realm of the sacred, even when you yourself are at times unaware of it. Each time you choose what is right when no one is watching, each time you remain faithful in a small task, each time you resist the temptation to give up, that flow is stirred more strongly, like a spiritual account beginning to bear interest. This inheritance does not operate automatically regardless of your choices. It waits for your cooperation, waits for you to open your heart, waits for you to say to me, "If you have placed something upon my life, please help me not to bury it any longer." That is why I remind you, do not treat what I have given you as framed gifts to be displayed for show, nor as vague promises meant only to offer momentary comfort. I have placed in your hands concrete opportunities to love, to serve, to mend what has been broken, to reconnect what has been fractured, to stand beside those who are collapsing as you once did. These occasions rarely appear as something grand. They usually come in very ordinary forms: a message you could pretend not to see, a face that appears in your thoughts and could be easily pushed aside, a painful memory that invites you either to shut your heart tight or to bravely ask for the grace to forgive. If you are willing to touch these small buttons, they will set in motion changes far greater than anything your eyes can perceive. You often think that in order to do something meaningful for me, you must begin with sweeping plans and steps that make everyone marvel. So you hesitate endlessly, because you have nothing spectacular with which to start. But my child, I have never asked that of you. I do not need you to impress the world. I only need you to let me touch the most hidden places of your life. When you pick up the phone to check on someone you know is worn out, even if you have no idea what to say, when you go to visit someone lonely whom you have postponed seeing because you feel awkward or busy, or tell yourself another time, when you open your mouth to speak a word of forgiveness while your heart still hurts, not because they deserve it, but because you refuse to let hatred pollute your heart, these things become like sparks that connect with the stream of grace already prepared for you. It is precisely these gestures that look so small which make the invisible strings vibrate and carry my light farther than you imagine. I want you to understand that every choice for the good, however small, carries a power to spread beyond the limits of the action itself. When you choose to listen instead of judge, to stay silently with someone rather than walk away because you feel uncomfortable, to speak a word that lifts up instead of adding to the words that wound, you are sowing new seeds in the field of your own life and in the lives of others. These seeds do not sprout at once, but I see them, I remember them, and I water them with grace. One day, you will look up in surprise to find that in the very place you thought was barren, new shoots of life are appearing, and you will not even remember when you planted them. This is how I work quietly, patiently, yet never in vain. There are times when you complain to me, "I have nothing in my hands. I am just an ordinary person, full of wounds and limitations." Because you think this way, you draw back, waiting until you are better, more healed, more successful before daring to give yourself. But you forget that in my hands nothing is ordinary. A handful of earth can become the form of a human being. A little flour and a few fish can feed a crowd. A simple staff can part the waters. A single breath of surrender can open paradise to a repentant thief. What is decisive is not whether what you hold is great or small, but whether it is placed in my hands. If you offer me your fragility, I will use that very fragility as the channel through which my mercy flows. So when you see yourself only doing small things, do not consider them insignificant. I watch the way you live each day, the way you respond to what seems trivial, and it is there that I measure your heart. A person may say many fervent words, may sing loudly, may shed many tears in prayer, but what makes me smile is when they walk out of that place of prayer and know how to treat their brothers and sisters with patience, gentleness, and sincerity. That is when faith has traveled from the lips down into the hands, the feet, and the true rhythm of the heart. Do not underestimate a single day lived in faithfulness, even if no one praises you, even if no one sees. I see. I know. I use each of those days to rebuild the foundations of your life. My child, the inheritance I have placed over your life was not given for you to cling to as your private possession, like someone clutching a chest of treasure in fear of it being stolen. It was given to bear fruit, to multiply, so that in your turn you become a source of nourishment for those who are thirsty, lost, and starving for the support you once received from others. If you only keep it, only care for yourself, only focus on protecting the safety of your own heart, that inheritance will be buried not because it has lost its value, but because it is locked away by your own choice to withdraw. Yet when you dare to share, dare to give, dare to use what you have, even if it is only a small story, an ordinary experience, an honest testimony to lift someone up, you will begin to sense that inheritance moving, alive, expanding beyond the borders of your own life. I tell you all of this not to place a new burden on your shoulders, but so that you understand you no longer have to struggle through life alone. You are not required to invent a path just for yourself. You do not have to force open every locked door. You do not have to strain to make something grand. I have already prepared a heritage, already sown abilities into your heart, already placed people beside you, already arranged circumstances, all waiting for the day you are willing to say, I am willing. When that word rises from the depths, everything I have been quietly arranging for so long will begin to flow freely. Then you will no longer feel like a victim of life, but like someone who is walking with me inside a story far greater than yourself. And when you learn to recognize my voice amid the noise, when you dare to reorder the priorities of your life, when you begin to cherish each small but sincere action, when you stop despising what I have already placed in your hands, you will see what until now you had only heard about. Nothing is small in my hands. Even your weaknesses, your losses, the years you think were wasted, if you will place them back into my arms, I can turn them into material to renew not only your own life, but also the lives of those you touch. That is why I am tireless in calling you out of the paralysis of mere emotion, into a way of living that knows it is entrusted, supported, guided, and sent. Remember this every time you choose to walk with me. Just a little more, just a little more. You are allowing the river of grace that has long been waiting to flow more strongly through your life. Do not be afraid of starting small. Do not be afraid of not being enough yet. Do not be afraid of being judged. Fear only one thing, that your heart should grow so hard that it no longer responds to my whispered words. As long as you still tremble at the inner call, still long to live a life that is not wasted, still dare to say to me, I want to belong to you, Father. A little more, then there is still hope. There is still a future. There is still a journey that I am not only writing for you, but writing with you, day by day, my beloved child. From the moment you decide not to stop at passing emotion, but to take even one small step in faith, something very quiet yet very powerful begins to shift within your soul. What I sow in you is not a burst of inspiration, still less a gust of wind that sweeps past and disappears, but living seeds that need time and the patient cooperation of your own heart in order to grow. Every word I speak, every consolation you receive, every awakening you experience is not meant to drift into the past like a beautiful memory, but to become a continuous current, transforming your habits, your choices, your thoughts in the very ordinary days that follow. I know there are moments when you grow impatient, wanting to see results, wanting to change quickly, wanting the old self to vanish after just a few seconds of prayer. But in my kingdom, what endures usually grows in hiddenness, in days when nothing seems special, in repeated choices for which no one applauds you. For this reason, I invite you into a small but steady path, not showy, not noisy, but strong enough to lead you out of the darkness where you have dwelt too long. What I desire from you is not flashes of emotional fireworks, but a heart that knows how to stand firm, to remain, to keep going, even when it no longer feels so much like at the beginning. That is where you start to understand what it means to mature in me. Remember that in the world I created, no seed grows into a tree in a single night. One drop of rain does not make a springtime. One prayer does not tell the whole story. One day of enthusiasm is not enough to shape an entirely new life. All that you are now carrying, your spiritual inheritance, the calling I have whispered, the warnings you have just heard are like good seeds I have placed in your hands. If you only hold them for a moment and then forget them, they will lie there, drying out with the years. But if you are willing to patiently tend and cultivate them, little by little, you will one day see that your life is no longer a wild field full of weeds, but a garden with order, with fragrance, with shade where others may find rest. I do not ask you to become extraordinary. I only ask that you do not let go halfway. Your perseverance, even when tired, even when full of doubts, is more precious to me than countless promises that are never lived through to the end. That is why I want you to learn how to cooperate with grace, rather than simply stand there waiting for a miracle. I have placed within you gifts you sometimes overlook: the ability to listen to others, sensitivity to pain, the way your heart knows compassion, the small talents you think are worth nothing. All these are not there by accident. They are the tools I have prepared so that you can truly walk in your mission. Do not think that your calling begins only when you do something spectacular. It begins when you value what is already in your hands. Place it in mine and say, I want to use this in a way that pleases you. When you sing, sing as a prayer, not to impress. When you write, write as someone sharing the light they have received, not to hunt for praise. When you care for someone who is weak, do it as if you were caring for me myself. Any gift you have, however small, when united with love, will become a pathway for healing to flow through your life into the world around you. To live this way, you need inner space. The world around you is loud, constantly pulling you into cycles that make you forget the voice within your soul. I am not telling you to flee from life, but I am calling you to recover moments of stillness where you can breathe more slowly and remember to whom you belong. Those pauses are not luxuries. They are essential if you want your soul not to be crushed by the endless demands of each day. In the silence, where there is only you and me, I will gently rearrange what is tangled. I will help you discern what must be kept and what must be released, which concerns only drain you, and which tasks I truly call you to invest yourself in. If you do not allow yourself those moments, you will easily be swept along by every invitation, every pressure, every expectation of others, and in the end, you will lose what is essential that I have entrusted to you. In those moments, let prayer become the anchor of your soul. You do not need ornate words or complicated rituals. You only need the truth of your heart. Tell me what you are carrying. Offer me your fear, your anger, your shame, your exhaustion. Each time you do this, even if you feel nothing clearly, I am still steadying your soul, like a captain dropping anchor in the waves so that the ship is not carried away. Prayer does not make every storm vanish, but it keeps you from being swept off into aimless drifting. Through it, I also correct you from within. I gradually replace the words you speak to yourself with the words I speak over you. I soften the voice of self-accusation and magnify the voice of hope. Little by little, you will notice that you are no longer driven by panic, but are beginning to be led by peace. But, my child, if you are to go far, you must also accept being shaped. The reminders, the corrections, the times your pride is touched or your weakness is exposed, all of these, if you let me use them, become gentle blades, sharpening you. Do not be afraid when I use someone or some situation to reveal your crooked places, your shadows, your immaturity. I do not do this to humiliate you, but so that you do not build your life on fractured ground. If you let truth touch you, you will no longer have to live in fear of being found out, because you know I have seen everything, and I am working with you to clean every hidden corner. A soul that receives correction with humility quickly becomes stable, no longer easily toppled by the winds of emotion or public opinion. Then the time will come when everything you have received hours of silence, prayers, corrections must be poured out in concrete action. Service is not an extra item to decorate your life, but the very environment I use to grow you. When you give your time, your listening, a loaf of bread, a sincere word of comfort, a faithful presence beside someone in pain, you are not only helping them, you are allowing me to shape you into someone more like myself. You will learn that love is not merely a feeling, but a choice to remain, to keep being patient, to make space for others in the rhythm of your life. You may feel that you are losing time, but within, your heart is being widened, your endurance strengthened, your selfishness purified. This is how I use service to transform a heavy soul into a person who can gently carry the true kind of burden. In all of this, I will teach you a new rhythm for living, not the frantic rhythm of fear, always afraid of being left behind, not the pressured rhythm of proving your worth, but the rhythm of someone who knows they are loved, called, and guided. You will learn not to say yes to every request, every opportunity, every favor, if they do not come from me or do not serve the mission I have placed within you. You will also learn to bravely say no to relationships, jobs, and habits that only drain you and pull you away from my voice. At first, you may feel guilty when you refuse, but you will come to understand every time you say no to something unhealthy, you are saying yes to something better, to me, and to the deepest part of your calling. At the same time, you also need to learn how to protect and care for yourself as a part of faithfulness. Your body is not a pile of tools for you to exploit until it is worn out, but the home I have chosen to dwell in with you during the time you are on this earth. When you sleep enough, eat healthily, move your body in a balanced way, and do not abandon yourself to destructive habits, you are not just living a healthy life, you are honoring the one who has given you life. In the same way, your mind is like a garden if you allow every kind of image, information, and toxic word to flood in. Little by little, your memory, imagination, and thoughts will be overrun with weeds. Be careful with what you look at, what you listen to, what you ponder each day. It is not because I am hard to please, but because I know that whatever you allow to remain in you for a long time will shape you. I want you to actively sow into your mind what is true, beautiful, and edifying, so that when you speak and act, others can taste a little bit of light shining out from within you. All of these things are not things you must do in order to be worthy of my love. They are small steps by which you cooperate with that love, so that it does not get stuck at the level of emotion, but enters into the very concrete parts of your daily life. The more you cooperate with grace, the more room your spiritual inheritance has to take root, to bud and to bear fruit. The more you let me lead the rhythm of your life, the clearer and lighter your vocation will become. You may still stumble, You may still have days when you feel you are falling back, but do not be afraid. What matters is not how many times you have failed, but whether each time you fall, you turn back and take my hand. I am always stretching out my hand, not to pull you back to the starting line, but to lead you onward from exactly where you are standing. My child, when the inner, gnawing thoughts try to convince you that you are small, incapable, unable to bear what I entrust to you, I want you to turn back and look carefully at the journey you have already walked with me. Instead of looking at yourself with today's tired eyes, remember how many times you thought you were completely finished, and yet you are still here, still able to hear my voice, still with enough strength to ask questions and to long to live differently. There were days when you sat in a dark room, your heart crammed full of anxiety, your mind spinning with the worst scenarios, and you thought, surely I cannot get through this. And yet time went by. Perhaps you did not win in a perfect way, but you did make it through each night. Who kept you from dropping your life altogether? Who lifted you up after those times when you collapsed in tears? You were not the one who pulled yourself out of the deep pit. I am the one who bent down, took your hand and led you step by step, even when you did not realize it was me. Therefore, whenever doubt creeps in, whenever the voice inside whispers, I am not enough, I am not worthy, I cannot, let a deeper voice, gentle but resolute, speak up. I have seen you rescued from so many situations that seemed completely blocked. Could I be mistaken in choosing you one more time? You cannot both acknowledge that I have brought you out of so many valleys, and at the same time, think that I do not know what I am doing when I trust you with something new. I do not throw you into a battlefield and then turn my back. I train you with the very wounds you already carry, so that one day you will realize that the places that once hurt the most are precisely where I have poured in the most strength. Do not let your memory store only failures. Let it become living proof that in the times that seemed like total collapse, you were raised up by me more times than you can count. And be honest with yourself, if I had not been present in your life, would you still be sitting here thinking about vocation, about inheritance, about mission? When you begin to remember in that way, doubt will no longer have enough power to bind you. It may still whisper, but its voice will grow small before the living testimony of your journey with me. Then there will be times when you are not only held back by doubt, but also pulled backward by comparison. You look at one person's talent, another's fluent speech, someone else's courage, another's holy and upright life, and you step back, withdraw into the shadows, as if my stage were reserved only for those who are beautiful enough, strong enough, sufficiently up to standard, according to the measure you have imagined. You look at the inheritance I have given you and it feels strange, off, like no one else's. So you conclude that it is of lesser value. But my child, I do not make copies. I do not write the same story over and over again for many people. I have woven your life out of details that belong only to you, your particular wounds, your particular falls, the prayers others have lifted up for you over many years, the encounters that seemed accidental but were, in fact, arranged by me. If all I needed was someone like that other person, I would have chosen that very person. I would not have needed to draw you in at all. Yet you forget that from beginning to end. I have called your name, not someone else's. To entrust your portion of the work, I have used clumsy shepherds, fishermen of little repute, people who once denied me, who were weak, who trembled with fear, to accomplish things that made the whole world look up. And now you want to remove yourself from the ranks because you think you are unlike anyone and inferior to everyone. Do not let your eyes serve only to compare. Let them become windows through which you see that each person has been entrusted with a garden of their own. And what I await from you is not a garden as beautiful as another's, but that your own small piece of earth would push out new shoots when I pour water on it. There are labels you have been wearing on yourself for a very long time and have never taken off. They may be the words people stuck on you when you were still very small. You only cause trouble. You never finish anything properly. You are a burden. You only ruin everything. They may also be the phrases you mutter to yourself after an incident. A mistake. Truly, I am impossible. It is my fault. I am not worthy to receive anything good anymore. It is best that I do not hope for anything, so I will not make others suffer. You repeat them, believe them, and then those words gradually become a frame that tightly binds your soul. You hear my call, but what you remember are the old labels. You are sinful. You are incompetent. You ruin everything. You think that if you keep them, you will avoid further hurt, but in reality, you are imprisoning yourself in a cramped box, not allowing grace to touch you. I do not call you by those labels. I call you by the personal name I loved long ago, with a gaze that does not discard your past but also does not chain you to it. I do not ask you to deny what has happened. I only invite you to take those things off your shoulders, like a backpack that is too heavy and that you no longer need to carry. You have worn them so long that you suppose they are part of your own body. But in truth, they are only cords tying you to an old version of yourself in which I do not want you to live forever. Along with those labels, you have also signed silent vows with sadness and guilt. From now on, I will not allow myself to be happy, because I am unworthy. I will remember this fault forever so that I will never forgive myself. I will live quietly in the background. Let no one hope for anything from me. Those vows may sound pious. They may sound like taking responsibility. But in fact, they are cords of bondage that prevent you from stepping out of your former season. You do not realize that each time you make such vows, you are agreeing to live in the basement, while I have prepared for you a house with light above. Today, I gently yet decisively invite you to let go of those hidden vows. No complicated ritual is needed. You only need to honestly say to me, Father, the words I once promised to sin, to shame, to sorrow, I no longer want to hold on to them. I let them go. I do not belong to them. I belong to you. I do not force you. But I know clearly that as long as you still grip the cord of those promises with the darkness, you will not yet be able to take the hand that leads you out into the light. I have not put a mantle of inheritance on you, only to stand by watching you huddle and hide in it, like someone afraid of the sunlight. I have not placed a grace on your shoulders so that it becomes an excuse for you to withdraw, to tell only old stories, and to live off memories. The mantle I give you is not to shield you from the world, but to protect you while you step out into this world. It is the sign that you are sent, entrusted, commissioned to carry something greater than yourself. If you cling to that mantle as your only refuge, not daring to go, not daring to speak, not daring to live differently, then you are turning a gift into a blanket that covers everything, not allowing the light to pass through. I want you to put it on. Stand up straight. Look forward and walk, step by step, even if trembling, even if slowly, but walking outwards, not turning back in on yourself. You may say, but I lack everything. I lack experience. I lack holiness. I lack calm. I lack wisdom. I even lack faith. I do not deny those lacks. I only ask you up until now, have you ever really been fully sufficient in anything? It is precisely in those empty spaces that I have placed my grace. Where you are weak, I make up for it with my strength, what you do not know. I lead with my direction, what you lack. I add through the people I send to your side, through words of scripture given at the right moment, through circumstances by which you come to recognize that I am guiding you and not abandoning you. Your lack is not a reason to withdraw, it is a reason for you to cling more tightly to me. You think vocation happens when you already have everything, and then I give you a task. But the truth is that it is precisely when your hands are still empty that I begin to place things in them. And because of that, you will always need to return to me. Instead of relying on your own capital, what you need is not a long list of what you possess, but a willing attitude that allows me to fill in the empty spaces each day. I will not allow my promise to you to be crushed under the noise of fear, haste, or weariness. I surround that promise with my patience, with quiet signs, with the times I cause you to accidentally remember what I have spoken. At times, if you look back, you will see, although more than once you have wanted to let go of everything, to forget, to just get life over with, yet my words to you still return in ways that seem random, a verse of scripture someone sends, a song that plays at exactly the right moment, a story that touches your pain, a memory that is gentle yet piercing. That is not coincidence. That is the hedge I build around the word I have spoken, so that it will not be snatched away from your heart. Fear wants to jump in, but it runs into truth. Haste wants to shove you onto another path, but it collides with my patience. Exhaustion wants to pull you down, but it encounters the lifting strength I pour out from the very things you thought were already over. You need only one thing. Do not tear down that hedge yourself. Do not push yourself out of the safe place of my word just because you feel you are not ready. Stay within the promise. When you are joyful as well as when you are weary, hold fast to what I have spoken. Even when your feelings are no longer as stirred as at the beginning, let faith remain longer than emotion, so that one day you will realize that what keeps you standing is not passing moments of emotion, but my faithfulness to what I have spoken about you. And little by little, you will see you are not a victim of the past, not someone lost among comparisons and doubts, but a child learning to walk beside their father, wearing a new mantle, with feet that still tremble, yet with a heart that knows clearly, I do not walk alone, I am chosen, I am entrusted, and I am stepping into what has been waiting for me all these years. In this moment, be still, open your whole heart before me, and speak to me the most sincere prayers from the depths of your soul. Almighty God, who sees through every dark corner of my heart, today I come before your presence with a soul still filled with confusion. There are so many voices calling around me, so many thoughts intertwined, so many desires and fears woven together that I no longer know what truly belongs to you and what is merely an illusion. Please grant me the grace of discernment, that I may recognize your whisper amid the countless noises, that I may know what only dazzles for a moment and what truly nourishes my soul in the long run. Do not let me chase after fleeting emotions, but teach me to seek the deep peace that comes from your holy will. Teach me to ask the right question, Lord. What is most important in this very moment? And give me the courage to follow the answer you place in my heart, even when it requires me to let go of the things I am clinging to. I ask you to shape and mold me little by little, so that each choice I make, however small, may gradually come into harmony with your ways of love. Merciful Father, I come to you not as someone strong, but as a child still trembling and full of limitations. I confess to you that many times I have withdrawn before even beginning, because I am afraid that I am not good enough, not holy enough, not talented enough to do what you are calling me to do. I have compared myself with others and concluded that I should stay on the sidelines, remain silent, merely get through the days. Today I offer you all these fears, the fear of failure, the fear of being misunderstood, the fear of disappointing you. Please help me believe that you do not choose me because I am perfect, but because you desire to use my very fragility to reveal your power and mercy. Lay your hand upon the wounds in my heart, those memories I have thought were burdens that exclude me, and transform them into a place from which compassion and understanding for my brothers and sisters can flow. Grant that I may have the courage to take just one small step, so that little by little I may learn that I do not walk alone, but that you always go before me, walk beside me, and come after me to guard and keep me. Loving Father, before all else I want to bow my head and thank you, for you never grow weary of seeking me. When I turn my back, you still stand there. When I fall silent, you still whisper. When I overlook your signs, you still continue to knock at the door. I thank you for awakening me through events and losses, yet never abandoning me in my suffering. I know that without your hidden hand I would have lost myself long ago. I thank you that you do not only see my sins and weaknesses, but also what I can become when I live in your grace. Thank you for every time you have given me the chance to begin again, for every gentle yet powerful reminder that has kept me from being swallowed up by the darkness. Grant that I may always remember your goodness, not only with words, but by living in a way worthy of that patient love. O God, the source of every blessing, I thank you for sending into my life people who have loved me with a sacrificial love. I give you thanks for those who have silently knelt in prayer, who have wept, worried, and sacrificed for my future without asking anything in return, even if some of them have now gone home to you. I believe that their intercession and trust still envelop my life like a spiritual cloak. I thank you that you have helped me realize that I am not alone, that I do not begin from nothing, but that I am walking on a foundation built by the love of many generations. Grant that I may cherish this heritage by living responsibly and purposefully, by honoring myself and others, and by continuing to hand on to those who come after me a living story of faith. I offer this prayer in the holy name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Do not forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, so that together we may build a strong and vibrant community of faith.